Hi friends, it's a new month, so that means let's talk about books again. In March, I actually ended up finishing 9 books, which I think is pretty good. Now I'm kind of back into a reading slump era. I'm gonna go through the books that I read in March. So we'll start with Marked. I talked about that in my last video a little bit because technically I finished it before I filmed, but I did finish it in March. Marked is the first book in the House of Night series by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. I gave it about 2.5 stars. I didn't like it as much as when I first read it. That being said, I have continued with the series. So I guess I'll just talk about Betrayed. So that is the second book in the House of Night series. I gave it 3 stars. I liked it a little more than the first one, and I'm, like I said, still looking forward to reading more of the series. It's like watching a series like Vampire Diaries or something, like where a lot of stuff happens. It's almost like the one book would translate to one episode instead of one book translating to a whole season, if that makes sense. But yeah, they're really fun. It's about this girl, Zoe Redbird, who gets marked and becomes a vampire fledgling and has to go to a boarding school to learn how to be a vampire, and she is a very special fledgling. Another book I read is Tender as the Flesh. I've heard of this from people who recommend like horror books online, so I am definitely interested in horror and thriller type books. So Tender as the Flesh is kind of a dystopian post-pandemic thing where no animals are safe to eat anymore and people don't want to give up meat, so humans become the meat that people eat and they're farming humans. It's a really intense book. It follows a main character who works in one of the processing plants. It's really messed up, pretty gruesome, but I think a good way for books to kind of have an idea is by saying what if and then answering that question. And I think this book does a really good job of saying, like, what if we didn't have animals to eat and people wanted to become cannibalistic? Which is like really freaking weird, but I gave it 4 stars. The ending of this book, I won't give you any spoilers, I promise, but the way it ended, like the last couple sentences, I was like, oh my god. Like, I couldn't even believe that what happened had just happened. And then after that one, after reading about like some serious cannibalistic, gory stuff, I wanted to kind of transfer over to something a little more lighthearted, so I read the graphic novel Tomboy. It was a lot of fun. I really liked the illustration style, and it was an interesting story. Like, you can be masculine but still be a girl, or you can be feminine and still be a boy. Like, it's a lot of discussion about the way you portray yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you are a different gender, if that makes sense, and kind of shows that, like, be who you are and don't let that change who you are, if that makes sense. And I gave that one 3 stars. It was a good, easy read. After Tomboy, I went back to a thriller suspense novel. I read The Silent Patient. The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And I really enjoyed that one, except it didn't give me everything I was hoping for. It's another one that's been hyped up online. Sometimes I am very disappointed by things that are too hyped up online because, everyone can have differing opinions, but it seems like ones that everyone is loving are not the ones that are particularly my favorite. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed the ride. And then we went to The Sky is Everywhere. It's a book that I wanted to read because I saw the trailer for the movie. A lot of the times when I see a movie is based off of a book, I'm like, I have to read the book. Even if I'm not even like planning on watching the movie, I'm always like, If someone liked it enough to make it into a movie, then I want to read the book. Sky is Everywhere is about this girl who her sister dies, and then after that it's like this romance triangle between her sister's boyfriend and this new kid at school, and she's trying to decide like what's right, what's wrong, also all while grieving the loss of her sister. Yeah, it was a pretty good book. It's about like a high school relationship, so like I've said in previous videos, it's not something that like resonates with me anymore as an adult. I wouldn't recommend it if you don't like young adult. I gave it 3 stars. I was kind of over it halfway through, but then the way it finished, I was like, oh, that was a cute book kind of thing. And then I read something that technically doesn't really make sense to read in March, but I also don't see why you can't read it whenever you want to. It was the book Stocking Stuffers by Erin McClellan. It is about Christmas time. It's the beginning of her So Over the Holidays series. It's about this woman, Sasha, and this man, Perry. Sasha hates the holidays. Perry's whole life revolves around the holidays, basically. It's a very, spicy. It was good. I liked it a lot. I love when romance books can be spicy without being uncomfortable. I also really enjoyed that the main character is not a heterosexual woman, so there's some extra additive to that. I really think that more romances should like include characters that aren't just your typical boy girl, you know, with no extra fun in it. I definitely think it's a good book. It's very spicy. I gave it 5 stars because I loved it so much. And I know it was Christmas in March, but I like Christmas all year round. So... And then I went to read Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, and I've heard some good things about Lisa Jewell as an author. I was not disappointed. Someone recommended if you liked A Woman in the Window, you'll like Then She Was Gone. I gave it 5 stars. I read it almost in one sitting. I was like speed reading it. It was so good. I couldn't stop, needed to know what was gonna happen. And then I think it was like 1 a.m. and I was like, I'm gonna pass out. So then I finished it the next morning. It's like a thriller suspense mystery, but in a way where you kind of are told the answers in the beginning. Then throughout the book, you're just like, I want to see how it led up to this point, and I need the details of what happened. But you're kind of going backwards and piecing things together as we're moving forward. So it was a fun read. Like I said, I couldn't put it down. Good page turner, 5 stars. The last book that I have finished in March, it was one I had on audiobook, so I kind of like listened to it throughout the month while I was going for walks or grocery shopping or doing dishes or, you know, whatever time is good to listen to an audiobook. Yeah, Educated by Tara Westover. It was about a girl who grew up in a very strict, extremist Mormon household and kind of like how her life shaped itself to becoming an actual part of society rather than this extremist Mormon life. These are the things that happened to me because, you know, stuff's a little crazy sometimes. It was a good story. It was told well. I really liked the narrator. I don't remember the narrator's name. Maybe I'll write it right here so you can know who the narrator was. I gave that 4 stars. My mom actually listened to the audiobook before I did and she recommended it, so thanks, Mom, for the recommendation. Those are the books I read in March. I'm proud of how many books I read. I've slowed down a little bit, and according to Storygraph, I think I'm 7 books ahead from my goal for the year, so that's pretty dope. I would like to keep ahead of the goal, of course. Like, I'm not trying to reach just the goal. If I can reach above the goal, that would be super dope. I'm not really sure where I want to go with reading. I mean, obviously, I'm still going to be reading, but it's just like, I don't know what to pick up next, I think. So, if you have any recommendations, even if I have to put them on my hold list on Libby for the next 20 weeks, I can do that. I need some recommendations. I mean, I have a full bookshelf over there with plenty of books to read, but like, sometimes I just need something that I haven't even heard of. Give me your craziest book recommendations, but that you liked. that was March for me reading. I'd love to know what you read in March, if you read anything good. If you want to be friends on Goodreads or Storygraph, I'll have those in the description. I hope you're reading good books. I hope you're having a good day. Sorry that Cookie was not my sidekick for this whole video. She's in the back room playing with her Kong, eating some peanut butter. If you'd like to continue seeing videos about books from me, then make sure to subscribe. I also make videos about art and photography, but those have kind of taken a back burner lately. But I would love to keep those happening. I will see you in the next one. Later, skater. Bye-bye.